Hello and welcome to Cooking the Books with Heather. Today we're going to be working once again from Tanya Holland's Brown Sugar Kitchen, and we're going to be making mixed greens with roasted tomato and thyme vinaigrette. And we're making this partially because it uses the buttermilk cornbread that we've already made on the channel. It uses about 1/8 of the recipe, so if you have some left over, this is a good recipe to use those leftovers in. But first, we need to make the roasted tomato and thyme vinaigrette. And it seems like a relatively small amount of vinaigrette. You just need 1 ripe Roma tomato, peeled, halved, and seeded. So I have put this in boiling water. I sort of made a little X on the bottom and put it in boiling water for like 20 seconds, and then I let it sit and cool. So I'm hoping I'll be able to get most of the skin off without a problem. And it does seem to be coming off pretty okay. Not in full sheets, but nothing too bad. So I'll just be doing this for a minute. Finely peeled. I'm going to slice it in half lengthwise. And of course, I did not expose all of the seeds because you can't really figure out where those are. But I'm going to take the seeds out where I can here. And then I might have to quarter them. Although you're supposed to roast, them halved, I don't think it'll make a big difference if I quarter them. I am going to cut out this stem piece because, I don't know, kind of annoys me. So I'm gonna go ahead and slice these in quarters. That's not in the recipe. And of course, I hit the fleshy part again there. Anyway, this one is good. I've taken all the seeds out. I'm gonna put it in my baking dish. I have the smallest baking dish that I own. And here, that's not skin. And I'm going to put this in the baking dish. My oven is heated at 350 degrees because we're going to roast this tomato. All right, I'm just gonna stick my knife. Oh, there is no other one in there. I wonder if there's gotta be one in here. Yeah, it's right there. There we go. So I've gotten most of the seeds out. Got my tomato quarters, it's supposed to be a half. It'll be fine. Let me wash my hands real quick. Just like this, we're gonna drizzle it with some olive oil. There are no mentions of amounts. So I'm just drizzling, and then we're going to season with salt and pepper. And that's it. Now this is gonna go in the oven, like I said, at 350 for 15 to 20 minutes until the tomato is roasted and the juices are lightly caramelized. So we're not looking for blackened, just sort of lightly caramelized. So 15 to 20 minutes, be back with this, but we have another step that requires the oven. So we'll go ahead and get that going at the same time. So now we're ready to make the cornbread croutons, which is where we're using the leftover cornbread here. So I've got the amount pre-measured, I weighed it, and they are cut into approximately 1-inch cubes. So I'm just gonna spread them out in a single layer here. I put down some parchment. She doesn't say to do that, but it will not hurt anything. And again, we're just going to drizzle them with oil. So I'm just kind of gonna make sure I hit all of them, at least a little bit. There we go. And we're gonna sprinkle it with salt. All right, so these also go in the oven, same heat, same everything, and it's a relatively small pan, so they'll fit on the same shelf, no problem. And we need to turn them over once or twice until they're slightly browned. 15 minutes. So about the same amount of time. So might as well do them all at once. So that's what I'm gonna do now. Our tomatoes roasted for about 20 minutes before I decided they were done, and now they've been cooling. So these are supposed to be at room temperature, and we need either a blender or a food processor, and it's such a small amount. I decided I was gonna use sort of my smoothie cup for this. We'll see how that goes. This is easy to handle, not too hot. So this is what I decided was done, where it's, there's a little bit of caramelization, but they're not super well roasted. But we're gonna put these in the blender cup here. And I'm just gonna put as much of the oil as will come out in with it. And so the rest of the things that we need for our vinaigrette, let's see. We're just gonna put everything in here at once. So I've got some just plain red wine vinegar, not a whole lot. Like I said, this is a really small batch. I would have preferred, I think, like a double batch, but we decided to go ahead and make it as written the first time. I decided to do that. Okay, and then we have some more olive oil. Quite a bit of that. And again, the tomatoes will provide some more, acidity for the vinaigrette, and definitely some more liquid. There we go. Now the other ingredients, we have some minced shallots. This is way more minced shallots than we need, but I just minced up a small part, like a half of a large one where they kind of separate, because that was easiest. And I can always find something else to do with some minced shallots. So I'll just stick them in the refrigerator when we're done, or use them for dinner tonight. We'll see. There we go. And, oh, that was the wrong one. I need more, because I used the wrong measuring spoon. There we go. That's what we're supposed to have of those in there. And we need, this is just thyme leaves, fresh thyme leaves picked off of the stems. I was not super picky about the little stems, just because I knew we were going to put this in the blender. So some of them will get wort up, it'll be fine. And salt and pepper. She says to blend it up together first and then season with salt and pepper. I'm just gonna add some salt and pepper now, just because it's easier. There we go. And that's it. So I'm gonna put my blade on, and we're supposed to process this until blended, but still slightly chunky. So we'll see how well I do with that. I'm gonna pulse it with this and keep my fingers crossed. That might be good. I think that's probably pretty good. Definitely still slightly chunky. Trying to decide if I think I need another pulse or two, just to get not quite so chunky. I'm sure this is entirely up to you, how you like it. Okay, so I looked at the last minute and realized that this calls for way more mixed greens. So we need like mixed greens like baby romaine, frisee, oak leaf, baby spinach, arugula, whatever, torn into bite-sized pieces. I'm supposed to tear this into bite-sized pieces. I think they're already bite-sized pieces, so I'm not gonna do too much there. But I realized that it calls for more than one of these bags. So I just have a spring mix here, but one of these bags is more than enough for one salad for my family for one meal, unless we're going for like, that is your meal. So I'm gonna use about a bag. I had a little bit of a previous bag left. I don't think that's good. I don't think that one's good. So yeah, I'm gonna go with about a bag, which is a little less than half of what she calls for. However, I am not going to have the bacon. So it's not very much bacon, and we like bacon, so it's gonna be fine. And then the dressing, I'm gonna start with half of what she says, but I'm gonna go ahead and measure out the whole amount that she says and see how we go, because we do like our salads a little bit more heavily dressed than some people. So I'm just gonna pour about half of this in here and then mix it up. I usually use 2 spoons, and this also will be probably loud, so you won't see me mixing it, but we'll see how it goes. Definitely need more dressing for us, so I'm just gonna use the rest. There we go. And I'm being very messy as usual. I think that's probably dressed more to our preference. And now I'm gonna toss in our croutons. They baked for about the same amount of time as our tomato, and I'm not gonna have those either. This is gonna be perfectly fine for us. And I'm just gonna toss it up a little bit, and then we're gonna serve it. On this episode of Cooking the Books with Heather, we made mixed greens with roasted tomato and thyme vinaigrette from Tanya Holland's Brown Sugar Kitchen cookbook. And we enjoyed the salad. It was pretty good. I didn't think it was anything super special, but that was just me. And I do think that there was a little bit of a proportion issue in this recipe. So we used less greens than she suggests in the recipe for our salad, but did use the same amount of dressing. And in fact, I think I might have added even a little bit more. We do like our salad dressed pretty well, but it was not, I didn't feel like it was dressed correctly with that amount of dressing and the even about the half of the greens that we used. So I think there's a little bit of an issue there. We used about half of the greens, the same amount of bacon, the same amount of croutons. So I think you could definitely go down on the mixed greens there, because it seemed like a good amount of croutons and a good amount of bacon. Any less would have felt like it was hardly there. That's my opinion. That's our opinion. We felt it needed more dressing, but at least the recipe did make plenty of dressing, so that was good. It was really easy to make. I mean, it does caramelizing the tomato and making the vinaigrette. That's a little bit of an extra step than the usual vinaigrette that you kind of just throw some stuff in a jar or in a bowl and whisk it up and it's pretty much done. Requires the food processor or a blender. You can use like a smoothie blender. That's what I used, and it worked just fine. And the croutons were easy to make. If you've already made the buttermilk cornbread in here, which we had previously made, and I'll link that above. You know, we had leftovers and it was easy to make it. It was about a quarter of that recipe, just, you know, for your information. A quarter, maybe an eighth of that recipe. Yeah. Because I think both recipes we did ended up being a quarter. Anyway, I think I said something about that at the beginning, but I've forgotten now. Anyway, it didn't use all that much, but you could make more. You may want to cook them a little bit longer if you plan to keep them, to dry them out a little bit more, because these didn't get entirely crispy and dried out like most croutons, but that's good because it's a fresher crouton than you buy at the grocery store. But all in all, it was pretty easy. It was a little bit more difficult than the usual vinaigrette. You may have to adjust the levels of bacon, croutons and dressing to your tastes, but you know, that's really easy to do. So it was an interesting salad, and She says that you could add a poached or soft-boiled egg to this as a salad for brunch, and that sounds actually delicious. And I would certainly do that. So I'll have to try that with some of the leftover dressing that we have in the refrigerator. So if you enjoyed watching me make this, please give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and come back and watch me make something else next week.